Hello, everybody. We're on mute, unfortunately. Welcome to the first edition of Cooking Up Virtual Events. How ironic. You're on mute is the phrase of 2020, I believe.
Just want to say that.
Exactly. A great way to start. Shawn, welcome. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for getting up early to join me. I know it is a little bit early on your side of the world, but we find a way to connect and be here together on Cooking Up Virtual Events. I know you've been on the viewing side of a lot of editions, and it's great to have you on camera this time.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, and thanks for letting me showing off my little, tiny, boring, normal kitchen. Yeah, like unfortunately, I'm not good enough yet to be able to talk and cook, which is I know many of the people who are probably watching are able to. Just give me a little bit more time next time.
We'll figure it out. Now, I think we definitely need to have some live cooking on the show soon. I think last edition, I don't know if you saw, but we were speaking with Yo Guasij from Voken, and one of the events we covered was an event they do called The Residential, where they actually deliver this like really high-end gourmet experience box to people's houses, and then you have a Michelin star chef do the cooking with you as this sort of hybrid experience. And I love that event. I was like, yeah, let's do that. Okay, we have a few people watching. Anne is saying hi, boys. We do some we partner with Anne on a few projects, so it's nice to see Anne here. If you're watching us, oh, Anastasia, I hope we're not muted still. We were muted at the start, but I hope not. We're not anymore. If you're watching and you're joining, I can see that there's about 20 people so far joining us, 22 and growing, which is excellent. Let us know where you are right now. We'd love to just see who's watching and who's going to be joining us for this hour or so. We've got Christian, one of our loyal followers, Christian Staden from my playground in Cologne. I like the sound of that. Anne says, nice shirt, Shawn, by the way. We have Paul Cook, all the way from the UK, looking good to me, he says. We have Vivian Ho also saying hello, excellent. We have Rajani Nair from Ganting.
From India. That's what I.
Yes, from India. That's exactly. Sorry,
hi, Roger.
Bit tricky. Dana.
Oh, hi,
says,
Dana.
Hello, Shawn. Dana, excellent. Brenda Sanderson from Montreal. Brenda, nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. We have Maria Yanez as well. Sina, thank you for joining us. Okay, excellent. So confirmation from Sina that the sound is now fine. We have Bruce McDonald connecting from downtown Toronto. We definitely have a few Canadians here, so rooting for you here, Shawn. Sina all the way from Amsterdam. We have also Vivian is in Singapore, almost midnight here. Wow, Vivian, Thank you so much for the commitment. It's only 4:30 where I am, so definitely not the same level of commitment here. Jillian says bonjour from Montreal. Jillian actually sent us a message just before we went live, so really nice to have that kind of coordination. Oh, everybody's here. Andrew Dorcas.
Oh, hey, Andrew.
Andrew, one of your colleagues, I believe.
No, Andrew is one of the partners for the events we're going to talk about.
Oh, great! Well, I hope you agree with us, Andrew, and I hope you stick around. I hope it's nice for you to see your event come to life here as well. We have Lisa from Edmonton. We have Joe Atkinson from the UK. He can hear us well, so that's excellent. And Dana is in Thunder Bay. Mark Hanford, I think we both know Mark as well. Waiting for the microwave to ping. That is true, actually. Did you have anything cooking for us already?
Yeah, no.
We could make it happen. We have
That's a good idea, and we should do that next time.
Exactly. Have it cooking in the background. It's like, bing, okay, time's up. Let's go. Jen, how are you, Jen? Calling from Toronto. Really nice to have you join us as well. And we have Karen Versma. Hello from Ottawa. And Karen's actually joining us from YouTube because we're going on YouTube as well. There's 2 people on YouTube. We're very happy for you to join us on YouTube as well. We're focusing on the LinkedIn audience, but YouTube works as well. Francesca Corradi from Florence, Italy. Excellent. Anastasia is in Stockholm. And Elder from Porto in Portugal. Wow. Thanks, everybody, for letting us know where you are. I think it's great that we feel like we're not alone here, especially these times of pandemic. It's great to just feel like there's people that actually care about this topic as well. So, wow, it's like 35 people with us here, Shawn. 35 people in your kitchen. I'm not
Yes.
sure that's
I don't think that
up
allowed.
to.
I don't think that allowed in Vancouver, Canada.
No, exactly. So it's it's not exactly. It has to be online for now. But hey, it's good to have that feeling of hanging out. So we're here to talk about an event that you just completed a few days ago. What, maybe a week ago now? I think we were talking about it for a while, and it was a hard birth, I would say. You worked some long hours. You put in a lot of effort into it, and I've heard a lot about this event. So I really wanted to kind of talk about it, talk through. Can you tell us a little bit about what this event is? And I know we have a video prepared, but I'd like to hear it in your own words first of all. How you got involved and what the event's all about.
Yeah, definitely. And I think right now, since the event's already finished, it's definitely a very proud project that we're happy to share. So the event is called Blockchain Revolution Global. So in a nutshell, it's a conference for the blockchain technology. For those of you who don't know, blockchain is kind of picking up a lot of the buzz around the world. It's kind of being called the next way of internet, and so around the world, there's a lot of the talk, and like the most significant thing about blockchain is cryptocurrency, of course. But the project we are doing is actually very specifically say that we do not talk too much about cryptocurrency. It's actually about blockchain is a framework that actually can amplify into a lot of different parts. So it's a very enterprise focused. And so traditionally it was a very, honestly, it was for the audience here, I will say this, it was a very typical conference project. The conference ran from 2 days. It's in Toronto. We are aiming for roughly about 1,000 to 1,200 people.
And when did you start? When did you start working on it? So this was a physical conference that you started working on. How far in advance?
So the conference was supposed to be in April, the first week of April. We've been I'm been buying, I will say, in September, October last year. And the planning was all pretty well. It's the second year, and the registration, when we check in January, it was pretty on par with what we're expecting. So everything is like kind of like, yep, it's just a random Tuesday. And then in March, everything changed, like everyone else, I'm pretty sure. So we
really. I haven't heard about this. What happened?
I know, right? Like if people watching this in 2023, they was like, "What are you talking about?" But so like we went through kind of not a panic mode, but definitely a lot of changing adjustment. We decided to move the conference to later in the fall, so to end of October. But by that time, we still feel that there is. We still think like, so remember this is in March. So we feel in October, like these things were way over. People might not like to travel that much. So we're going to including a virtual component. So it's like, so we actually changing into be more a hybrid model. So have the main hub in Toronto and people watching online. And then by July, we realized that, well, don't think that even will happen. So then we need to flip the table again and like complete redesign again and became a fully virtual event. And so to be fair, like, so for this conference, if you're really talking about the real delivery time, is like less than 3 months because you just keep changing it, right?
But you were able to use some of the work that you'd already put in beforehand in terms of speakers and that sort of thing.
Yes. And then I think that is quite important is because we are able to like what we do in like I know there's different term to describe it, but what we do is we adapting a methodology that actually asking ourselves to back up a little bit when we are doing the redesign. So in MCI we have a way called Dive. It's called DIVE. So if you go to the MCI website, you can definitely find it. And so it's called define. Idea, visualize, and engage. So at the define stage is basically asking the why. So we actually went back and the client at the beginning wasn't very buy into this. It was like, well, we're kind of wasting our time, let's get going. But we kind of, we went back, so like, so why are we doing this conference? Like, what's the whole purpose? What do you want to achieve? Who is attending? Asking all those questions. At some point you feel stupid or you feel you already know. But because of that we are able to kind of refocus a little bit on what is really important without losing sight with all the fancy, with all the technology need. And then we kind of build a framework that is very adaptive.
And this is the website, I think,
yes.
Anastasia
and
just
that
added
is the
on
event
the website. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
so
event
highly
website.
still go take a look. I mean, the website actually have a lot of the information about the conference. And if you are interested in blockchain technology, we're still selling on-demand content if you're interested.
Nice plug there.
Yes,
Very
yes,
good.
need to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just show a little bit of what's happening on the website here. This is the MCI website. This is what you were talking about, the dive methodology. So something that you've used to build this conference and also other conferences, I believe, virtual events. So a kind of framework that you're using. Yeah. Great. So let's show the video, because I think the video will explain a little bit also. I think it's always nice to have a little visual. And when we come back, I'd like to throw a question open to the people watching. We have about 46 people watching on LinkedIn, which is amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd love to hear your thoughts on blockchain, because I know it's a controversial topic, and I'm not here to, I don't want to make this into a controversial, discussion, and I definitely don't want to get political, but I'd love to hear your thoughts about blockchain, and particularly if you're involved, if you've invested in blockchain, or if you have any interest in blockchain, just let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear about it, and maybe that can be part of the conversation to see if this is an event that really did that justice. So let us know in the comments, and I'll run the video now so we can have a look at how this really worked out.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to 2020 Global Blockchain Week and Blockchain Revolution Global.
Welcome to the opening session of Blockchain Revolution Global.
Organizations are looking beyond the products they make and sell to the purpose behind their experience.
And with that, I think we're going to see more nations doubling down on their investment in this technology.
So yeah, scalability, I think, is going to be critical.
Sure. I think we will see an expansion to another point of the use of self-sovereign credentials and digital identity.
This is sort of a command center, at least in Toronto.
It's great to be here. What a busy first day.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Of course, there's a reason why the numbers are what they are, and statistics don't lie, numbers don't lie.
所以邓老师分享了一些，就是他们作为一个。
Por que isso não está procedimentalizado? Por que isso não está dentro de uma tecnologia?
Say MPE, minimum
viable ecosystem.
And basically we'll have like a massive shift in the paradigm.
We need to make sure this is a public-private partnership.
Both physically and digitally that have to work seamlessly.
So there's an acceleration of trends.
We've seen is almost a fearlessness out of necessity in terms of digitization.
And it's making the patient-centered dream a reality.
But with the Internet of Value, once again, the technology genie has been released from the vault. And we'll see you at blockchainresearchinstitute.com.
Good stuff. And already we have a few comments. Christian, I thought he would jump in. Blockchain, the future of the internet, says Christian. And Rajani is as well says the finance of the future. So a couple of fans. Would love to hear if anybody really doesn't like blockchain or really has any big objections. I think it's always interesting to discuss that. But I kind of bring this up because you made an interesting point that they didn't really focus too much on Bitcoin and the monetary side of things. And why is that? Was that to kind of stay away from any controversies and just talk about the technology, or were there other reasons to do that?
I mean, there's a few different reasons, but I would say the most important is what I mentioned is because we see blockchain is not about cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is using blockchain framework to be whatever they are. And I'm not an expert, as you can see. But therefore, I think what the purpose for the conference is we want to see how blockchain can be adapted into enterprise. And that is actually what we, at the end, discover what our sole purpose for this conference is to inspiring solution for the new global order. And then with that in mind, as you can see, everything then falling apart. I mean, not falling apart, like falling around. That's
revolver. It sounds like a plot of Batman, right? The new world order, and this is the new thing. But you are talking about big topics here, right? And I think, was it the Blockchain Research Institute? That's the people behind the client, really, the people behind this event, right?
So this is actually a project that is co-partner between Blockchain Research Institute and MCI. So it's kind of a joint venture that both companies see the value of this topic, and BRI kind of came in with the brand because they with all the knowledge, and the owner of the institute is actually, I'm not gonna say the founder of blockchain because I don't think he is, but like he's definitely one of the leading research and economists on blockchain technology.
Is it a father-son kind of partnership there?
Yes,
I saw the name,
Dong and Alex Tapscott. They are actually, if you just Google, then they're actually quite famous in the blockchain community, and their insight was really amazing. Yeah, and the MCI at this point came in as more the executor, which is helping BRI to really pushing this message a little bit further, because that's what we are good at.
Okay, really interesting. And Paul already comes in with a blockchain question. I'm not sure we're qualified to answer this, Paul, but I think you're enjoying the conversation here. How does blockchain work with some of the data security regulations around the globe, or doesn't it? And how vulnerable to hacking is blockchain? Now, I don't know if either of us are qualified.
I'm not qualified to answer this question, but I see a lot of the blockchain expert on the chat. I think that might be a better question for them.
Better question for them. I mean, from what I know, blockchain is pretty secure because of the way it exists, right? Because it's a public ledger, then there is, hacking becomes a little bit trickier unless you can hack every single ledger that everybody has.
But I understand as well, and that is why people keep saying they are the future, because it's decentralized, right? And building the trust back.
Brilliant. But let's not get into a blockchain discussion per se. I think what you were saying about the event really being important for the movement, I think is fascinating, because I'm a strong believer that events can really make a difference. And I think that's something that our industry, I think, can and should tap into further. That idea that events can be very specific energy points that make change. But there's a couple of other technical questions or technical comments that I think we should jump into, and then go into more questions. Sina comments on the instant translation. We saw a bunch of different languages being spoken there. How did that work? How did you make that all? How did you manage that all together, or were there sort of different audiences for different sessions?
So most of the session, I would say 90% of the session is conducted in English, because that's just kind of at this point is the universal language for communication, right? Even for the session in China, actually, I would say most of them actually is in English, but as you can see in the video, we actually although we have main program happening in North American time, but we also have program built in the European time, built in the South American times, and built in the China Asian time. And so for that to be able to serve the community there within their time that preferable to them, we're reusing a lot of the content, especially for the Asia. Just because of the time difference, there's no way they can participate us like live. So we actually have it's almost like you're building a complete different program for them, with a mixed combination of their own content and then our live content. And then when they're finished on the other day, their live content become the pre-recording content for the rest of the world. Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about that, because that was the question that Anastasia had as well. Were the sessions pre-recorded or live? And what is your take on live format? Is it more of an unnecessary risk or true value for the customers?
So for us, I would say it's actually 50-50. We have almost half of the content is pre-recorded. But when I'm saying pre-recorded, it doesn't mean that people can access them on demand. They just pre-recording, and then we edited them, and we push it out live at the time we wanted to push it out. So it's still, for audience wise, it's still a live session.
So you don't necessarily tell people what is pre-recorded and what's not. It's just live. It's just video that's live at a specific time. Okay.
Yeah. And so even when it's pre-recording, we do our best to actually be the one who recording those. So that gave us the ability to build the framework, that gave us the ability to kind of make it almost like a live event, because it's the same background, is the kind of the same intro and same frame. But like, to answer the question about whether it should, like, what my take on live on virtual, this is the live on virtual, right? So we have a script, but as you can see, we didn't really following it. And this is the beauty, but also the
nobody else knows that we have a script, right? Only we know that we have a script.
Right, this is definitely non-script, but that's the beauty, but also the dangers for doing this live. And if things go wrong, there's nothing you can do, because you can't, like, for example, if the speaker are talking something that you really don't want them to talk, it's live. If it's live, there's nothing you can do about it, right? And so I will say it's really up to what type of content it is and what type of presentation it is. I will say, if it is a solo presenter, like if it's just me and doing a session, I will, like, for me, personally, I will push the client to pre-record as much as they can, because there's no reason you need to be live when it's just you. But if it's a panel discussion like this, or there's a huge component that is live Q&A with the audience interaction, then live might not be a bad thing.
Well, I think just in our case, we showed a 3-minute video just now. I think I like showing videos on this event because it cuts it up a little bit. It breaks up the session, and I think in those 3 minutes, because it's highly produced 3 minutes, you see so much more than if we were talking about the event for 3, 10, 20 minutes. You probably still couldn't show as much as you can in a 3-minute video. So I think it's a very different kind of thing. But we have a couple of questions coming up about the Q&A. So maybe you should address that. How did you do the Q&A in terms of the sessions? Did they all have Q&A, and how did you manage that?
Yeah, so all the questions had Q&A, and I must say this is the part that we have some improvement to do. I don't think we operated in a way that we want to. So just sharing some back-end story with the people on this group.
You heard it here first. Secrets.
Yes, like behind the scenes. So for the audience, maybe first start with the audience. So as the audience, what you do is you log into the BRG platform, and then you watch the session on the platform, and then you interact in the chat room. So for every session we have a chat room, even if it's a pre-recording content, and you can chat, you can ask questions in the chat. But the reality in terms of how to operating is we actually didn't streaming thing on the platform. We stream thing on our own. We are using Vimeo, we're using YouTube, and we are using, for most of the session, we're actually using StreamYard, which I believe is what we're using it right now as kind of the streaming studio, and pushing that to Vimeo. And the problem for what our method is not connecting to the live chat. Because people are not chatting through YouTube or Vimeo, right? They're chatting on a third-party platform. So we actually have our producers. So for every session, we have a virtual producer, and we have our producer basically do multitasking, which is keep an eye on the chat room and then bring the question to, if it's a live session, bring the question to the live session. It's actually quite a lot of work. I would not recommend that. If we can find something more smooth, it's probably better.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons I like, so I'm asking people to put comments on LinkedIn so that I can see the comments, or on YouTube, which works as well. And the reason is I can bring them onto the screen so we can kind of connect the dots. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned that, because that's the way all the virtual platforms work, right? You have a tool like StreamYard in this case that joins the video feeds, that makes a video feed essentially, and then gets sent somewhere. In your case, it was sent to YouTube and Vimeo, right? And then that gets played on your event platform, which is where people are, where people log into, and where they do the chat. But those sort of three components are present in absolutely any software. And if you're using something like Zoom for a meeting, Zoom does more than one of those. So it kind of combines a couple of those things, but there's still separate things that sort of have to be merged together. So I think it's interesting to kind of just split those up and talk about the different options that you have in those.
Yeah, and I think that also, but I mean, from event producer perspective, I actually think that's kind of how differential you as the event producer, that whether you are like, what's your level are, right? Like, for example, we all, like, during the event, we did a session which is AMA style, Ask Me Anything style. So that is a very live Q&A session, as you know.
Can't pre-record that one.
Yeah, there's no way to recording that one, right? So for that one, what we did, like, I producing that, but we do exactly like what we just did, is we actually bring question up on screen, and so you just need to be fast.
Yep, you need to have fast fingers and
question, but the live question is the one you want to address, right?
Exactly.
So
and you had chat, I assume, as well, and chat was also on the platform, but separate from the video feed, right? So you also had to kind of monitor that. Yeah. What about live networking, asks Jillian. Was there a live networking component, and what did that look like?
So for again, this is the part that we really want to do. At the end, I don't think we are executing. There's some limitation on the platform, so we're not able to do what we want to do. But there are actually, so on the platform there is, and I actually find quite often right now that it's a common feature for many of the virtual platform is the roundtable feature. So that allow people to conduct small group meeting. That is less than, like, it's not like 20, 50 people, but it's more like 5 to 10 people type of, like, and a lot of the platform, what they do is actually very simple. You plug with Zoom or Microsoft Teams. So when you do, then you have your own small meeting. And on our platform, people, it's very easy to book a roundtable with each other. And we are trying, so so there's a few tactics we've been using. We were using, including we actually have a lot of the speaker who agree to do like a mini session that we call Meet the Speaker, and we encourage the sponsor to do that as well. That they are using a roundtable to kind of navigate it. Like the result it's a kind of a half-half, I would say. At the end is we do, and honestly, and if you look at it, it's actually like a real event, right? Like, you can plan anything, and you can mapping out what the experience is going to look like. But when the events go live, you just need to rub your hand and step back and see how it goes.
Right?
Yeah, you have people who are very engaged. Like, we have people who literally comment on every session. And
wow.
Like, do everything, like, as you can see the video, you can, like, we have like a call the world where you can record your own message about blockchain. Like, he did that, and he execute roundtable, he connect with people, he comment. But we also have people who all we know is he log in.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know if they're probably doing their emails, they're doing their thing, but they're not necessarily there all the time.
It's different behavior, right? And at the end, you just need to accept that and let it go to their own magic.
Good stuff. Well, we had a couple more questions that I think are worth addressing at this point. Brenda was asking about how you did the captioning or translation. Were there people involved, or were you using an AI tool to do the captioning or translations?
So we didn't do a live translation for this event, as I mentioned, because the second language session is very minimum. So what happened is all those sessions are actually pre-recorded. So then you can do a post-production by adding. the capture.
So give me an example. I saw a session there that was, I think, in Brazil in Portuguese. Did that then have subtitles in English for anybody watching that session?
Yeah, so for that one, it's actually have the capture on it, but it's a pre-recording session, and then so they do the video, they do the meeting first, and then they can for that one, and that is something actually we actually put it back to the partner locally. Because basically it's like, you just tell them that either we do it, then we need to hiring someone, right? Because I don't speak Portuguese, and even I speak Mandarin, but I am not confident of doing that for you on the topic. I'm not really know about it. So it's putting back to them, right? And then I think that is kind of one thing, and I can see that more and more right now because of the virtual space, that you have more global program like ever before. And I know everyone is kind of scrambling, how can I do it? Sometimes you just need to let it go, like it's a partnership, it's a co-creation process, right? So put it back.
That. Yeah. Question here from Paul Cook as well. Did you have pre-event content? How does that work? Did you have stuff to build up to the event?
Yes, we have. So we did a few pre-conference webinar. So what we actually built up is actually starting in the summer. So for this conference, traditionally is you are 2 days, and then on the first evening you have a award gala or like a award party, which is it's like a random. Not random, but it's like a typical conference award that you giving out a few awards about the topic and music, dancing, entertainment. Remember Andrew earlier who on the call, he is with a company called Art Media. So what they do is they do hologram. I think they have actually a studio in London, if I remember correctly.
Andrew.
Basically, we'll work with them to bring the award to be a virtual award. It's called EBA, so Enterprise Blockchain Award. And so we actually create a virtual. And remember, that was actually in July. So right now, everyone is actually doing, I must say. But I do just need to pat in our back a little bit, because we kind of quite kind of the first few. Who pushing to this direction. So it's you can see the whole shows on YouTube is actually quite a nice show. And then we're using that start to build the momentum of the conference, and plus with a few webinar. And for the people watching, like I will say, I know we're all trying to looking for that wow factor or something, but for conference at the end is actually the content. Right? Like I will say at the end, all the nice things on the platform, all the smooth transition that we are able to do, they are all important, but they are not the reason people come to your conference, right? The people, they come to your conference because the content, and we're very lucky with the partner with BRI, because they are really the brand of this topic, and they are able to curate a program that is super rich. Even the pre-conference webinar, like when I'm producing, then I'm just, well, that's actually a very interesting topic. They are actually have people from both startup to high level CEO. Like I never this is probably the highest rank of speaker level that I've been able to deal with so far. Is have CEO from FedEx, head of the blockchain from IBM, all those kind of big win. And it was so funny with the FedEx session. We're so worried. We actually have multiple people on site. Just want to make sure everything's well. It's actually a StreamYard, so they are pre-recording content, and we're trying to adjusting their camera but we are so worried with they are not gonna out of the script. And at the end, they didn't really follow the script, but they did, but this is their job, right? Like I think at the end, although CEO, their job is also a speaker. So they are all really good at doing this and looking at the camera, that kind of source. At the end,
it's a topic that they know about, right? They're the experts,
yeah.
So it's good.
It's like they do this every day, right? This is like their random day with looking at a camera and doing things. But those other things is actually, I think many of you who are watching this right now, it's not easy, right? Like even for me right now, I'm not really good at, I keep looking at a screen rather than the camera. it's hard.
Yeah, it's always tough to make eye contact. Andrew shares here. If you click on the link in the comments, you have Enterprise Blockchain Awards video clip, so you can see it in more detail, what Shawn is talking about. And Joe has an excellent question. Did you run a call for papers with a formal review, or did you generate session titles editorially and recruit speakers to deliver them? I believe you said it was a partnership, but tell us a little bit about the process here.
For this one, is no call for paper. This one is all generated by our partner at BRI. Yeah.
So they were basically your content consultants, and they figured out they had the contacts.
They curate the content basically. On this.
But I think you made an interesting point, right? For conferences, for kind of content-driven events, you're saying, look, we can do all the engagement you want, but what's really important is the content. And if you have like average content and make a really engaging session, then maybe it's okay. But if you have good content, it doesn't matter what engagement features you think. I'd love to hear from the people watching. Do you agree with that? Does that make sense to you? Do you disagree with that? And if you disagree, I'd love to know why you disagree, because I think it's always good to have a healthy debate about content and about engagement. But one thing we haven't mentioned is the platform. Can you tell us a little bit about what platform you used, or what mix of platforms you used to pull this off?
So we are using a platform called Social 27. I believe they are a Seattle-based company, and I think at the end it was really the reason we're choosing them is because of two reasons. One is they have a very simple matchmaking function that for conference like BRG and many of the technology conference, I would say is quite important because you want to build that connection naturally. And then the second is they have this, I think it's kind of like what Julia asked about earlier, what is the live networking experiences. They have this roundtable function that allow people to connect.
Put the link there. Yeah. So that was the platform. That was sort of that was the platform that people log into, right? So that was the participant platform. And then you used StreamYard, and I saw some AV, some pretty advanced AV, kind of putting the streams together, but then you fed that into StreamYard to go into Social 27. Is that right?
Yeah, like we actually had a really crazy streaming plan, and again, like right now we talk things like we planning this event for a long time, but reality is everything is kind of come into place in the last 2 weeks. I'm not even
condensed. Yeah, quite a condensed time frame, right? It was like there's all these plans, and now you just have to do it because it's coming up now.
Yeah, like for example, like all the regional content that you see on this, like you see in the video, they coming in the last 2 weeks. It's because this is like this, and I think that is actually quite normal this year with many of us. Is because no one knows what's the plan, and the plan just keep evolving and changing. And sometimes you just need to kind of ride the wave, if I can say. But anyway, we've been. It's not by choice, I would say, but we've been. And I apologize with my. It's not COVID. We've been using different technology to do different things. So we have our own registration, we have our own we handle our own streaming, and we have the Social 27 to be kind of the hub for people to engage. We need to do a lot of work to create that connection so it look a bit more seamless. We have some success and we have some not so success. But at the end, I do actually quite like this approach because if something go wrong, we have a little bit more control. Like, so for example, one of our session, it was a live session, and like many live session is a towing course, right? Like, so for that one, the internet have some issue, and then therefore there's some disconnection with the speaker. But we are able to quickly turn that off and then tell people to go to YouTube, right? Because there's some embedded difficulty like when it happened, but we're able to tell people like, here's the link, here's the Vimeo link, here's the YouTube link, just go there.
I think that's a really interesting point because it adds complexity, right? If you're just using one platform that has everything, it's a lot simpler, and from the user perspective, it's easier, right? Because you log into one place and it's seamless. And when you're mixing several platforms, you have to create that. You have to try and make it as seamless as possible, but it's way more complex on the back end. But that's an interesting point you bring up, because what you're saying is if something goes wrong with any one of these platforms, then you can swap that out, or you can identify what's going wrong and either swap it out or figure out a different solution. So that's an advantage I don't think I've ever really realized. So I think that's a really, really interesting point. Because I usually talk about, you want to use different platforms because you get the best of all the different worlds, right? You want to use the best streaming platform, you want to use the best user experience platform, etc. And then if you can combine those, you get, the best event possible. Whilst I don't think any one virtual event app is the best at every single thing, right? And if they are, then they're probably ridiculously expensive and you can't afford them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and it's a choice, right? And I would say depending on your event, also depending on your team. Like I've been lucky with working with a group of people who are very talented and who also crazy like I am. I feel at some point you need people like us. Like one of my teammates from Montreal who at the end who be brought in charge for the streaming. He got brought in a week ago.
Wow, a week before the date of the event.
Yeah, and then we talk about what's going on, and then he built this massive streaming plan, and we have multiple Vimeo account, multiple YouTube account, and multiple StreamYard account that all need to run seamlessly, and then we have backup after backup after. We have 3 backup actually. Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, fascinating. I mean, behind the scenes is fascinating. We're having a lot of questions come in, so I want to get through these questions before we run out of time. And like you said, I think it's fair to throw away the script and just focus on the questions that are coming up.
And you just need to cut me off.
Yeah, no worries. I'm going to jump into questions in a slightly different order to where they're coming in. Brenda, I see your question. I'm going to come to it in a second. I just want to answer Magdalena's question first, because I think it's related to what we're talking about just now. Did you fly people into your studio, or did you have different studios in different places to record the speakers? So how did you manage that?
I hope I can fly people to my studio. Unfortunately, that is not the case. We only the video. It seems like everything is on studio. Is actually not true.
Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, no, that is totally fine, because we actually only a selecting session is on studio, because we want to create that broadcasting and TV style. And then we mix that with all the pre-recording content. So at the end, it look actually all the same. It look quite seamless. But what we do is we only using studio in Toronto, which is our hub and which is our main office and where BRI located. And we have the speaker who are in Toronto, if their time allow, come into the studio to recording it. But other is all online.
Okay, good to know.
But I do like the Varia location one, because I always want to do that.
Exactly. And there's a LinkedIn user, unfortunately I can't see who it is. YouTube was your plan B. What was your plan C? Can you share it? Did you have a sort of definite plan C?
Depending on what exactly the situations. So basically what happened is if as some way people are not able to watching the session on the platform, we actually build a hidden web page on the BRG website that already embedded the right link there. So that is actually the first step, because we want people to still somehow feel they are part of the conference. But if even that didn't work, then we direct them to the direct video source. And even if that didn't work, which we do have kind of occasion, which is actually the session itself have some issue, then we tell people, this session have some technical difficulty for live, but they will be pre-recorded. So we're still going on, but we just don't broadcast it. Like we are benefit from like many of the conference. You not just have one session, right? We have 18 concurrent happening at the same time. So they just go pick another one. Come back to watch this.
That your session, it's a bit like, something's wrong with the stage in room 6, right? Well, there's
another
17
one
other
right
sessions.
Right?
Yeah. But obviously, if that is the topic that somebody wants to be part of, then it's not a nice thing to say, but it is an option always, especially if you're recording and you can always go back to it later.
But I think I actually really just want to quickly answer that, just because that is also important. You have someone who consistently communicate that with the audience. So for example, we have people who actually dedicated in the chat room, that not in one chat room, but jumping up in different chat room, and her job is actually telling people what's going on if something go wrong.
Well, with 18 different sessions, I mean, you're going to have a lot of different chats going on. So that's hard work. So I'm going to go back to Brenda's question, and there's similar questions from a few different people, and it's really about the sponsors and the exhibitors. Brenda asks about exhibit space, or were they involved in presenting the content in the sessions?
I will say both. And I will actually say for most of our sponsor and exhibitor, actually both, presenting content is more important. Like we start a conversation with them by co-creating content first. So some of our session, and for this one you can, because most of them are companies who are in the field, right? So we are able to kind of curate a very specific content that suit with what they are. And then we have like a kind of a virtual booth space for them. But I would say it's not really a virtual booth, it's more like a microsite. Which is the site that they can. That's another thing that Social 27 actually had the power. It's quite powerful on this. Is they don't call it a booth. They call it microsite. And for every microsite, you actually have a playlist function. So it's like you go into YouTube, you can curate your playlist. And that is kind of how they encourage exhibitor and sponsor to do, which is you curate your own content. Because have in mind, like I know there's a lot of conversation about virtual exhibition, whether that's value or not, but I guess it's just like for virtual, we should not looking at as a virtual exhibition. It's a virtual YouTube channel, and you have your own channel, so do your own.
That's actually a question from Rajani. What are your thoughts on virtual exhibition engagements? So just to clarify, on Social 27, you don't have a video call function with the exhibitors or something like that. You have a video playlist where you can showcase content, which each exhibitor can sort of showcase their content. Is that correct?
No, kind of actually both. So each exhibitor will be able to own their own page. And you can call them, that's their booth, or you can own it as their own channel. And so on that channel, they can build their own content library outside of the program. So they can, if you want, go crazy, which none of our exhibitor did, but you can literally run your own program on
you can run your own conference there, because it's sort of like your own sponsored session.
But they also have the video call function, and then but the beauty for this is if you execute correctly, is you can get massive data out from it. Right, because from a sponsor perspective, you will be able to know which content have the most click and who clicked them, right? That will help you to actually even do the very fast NAS follow-up. But again, like they also have the functionality of the roundtable. They can host on their own platform, or they can push into the public. And so it's kind of like there's a lot of similarity with compared with other conference, other platform. But I guess it's just the train of thought behind it is a little bit different that make them unique.
I think that's fascinating. I think, I'm of the opinion that kind of more traditional style exhibition opportunities, when translated into virtual events, don't really work, because you're sort of like, I can just Google you, there's no big advantage. But I think that's fascinating. Just a question from me: how do you manage the content side? How do you prevent an exhibitor from being too sales focused, or was that ever an issue? Because I always struggle with this when I bring people in, and I love the content approach, be part of the content, but then some exhibitors just want to sell their product, and I feel like that's not what people sign up for. You want to kind of have information about a topic or something like that. How do you manage that?
The short answer is I don't, if they gave me money. Well, it's more like if they give you money, you can't really do anything, right? But in a longer answer, what I would do is it depends, right? Because if I really want to control, which actually at some case we are, what we do is we change the session format to be a panel or Q&A, or someone interview, and that someone is from us. Yep. So by doing that, we can then control what the question going to be. But you are going to have a lot of those sessions, which is, like I said, Miguel, come on to be the innovation sponsor, and I will give you a 60-minute time slot to conduct a session. For that, I actually think it's actually the right thing to do is not to control that 60-minute, because you pay for that 60-minute. That is my personal opinion.
So it's like a paid to speak model in that sense from a sponsorship approach. And then I have no issues with that model, but I think it's important that what you're selling from the marketing angle then gets represented live, right? If you're saying, hey, this is a sponsored session, the sponsor is responsible for the content, then everybody's being honest, right? But if you make a promise as the whole conference, like highly curated content by our independent specialists, and then it's not, then I think it becomes a little bit of an issue, really.
Yeah, and I that's also something I think part of the conversation with your sponsor from the get-go, right? Because I think, like if you think about this, the reason they are conducting a session is because they want to get something out from it, right? And in order for them to get something out from it is you actually need to curate a session people actually want to watch and listen and engage to. And that is not going to be a sales pitch.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in the long run, everybody loses by just sales pitching all the time, right? Yeah. But I don't know how many exhibitors feel that way initially, right? I think the initial kind of energy is, I want to go and sell my product on stage. And I think it's always a battle. Yeah. But I think, good questions coming up. But I think we could talk about this for hours. And I don't want to just talk about my opinions. I want to go back to one question that was earlier from Jillian about the numbers. So how do the numbers compare for people attending live versus accessing content later? And how long has the library been living and the people's engagement in it? So a couple of questions in that, but all about the content and how it works live versus the kind of recorded on demand.
So that is a good question. And the answer is I will let you know in 3 months. Because for BRG, we actually have two type of registration. One is a general registration, one is a premium registration. For general registration, they can access all the content after the conference for over a month. So they can still watching all the on-demand session in November. For the premium, so for the VIP user, they can watching for 3 months. So they can still watching all the way till January. And so what we've been doing right now is, and that is actually the video you see today is actually that one step for us. We're going to take in the next couple of days. We are building post-event marketing around the on-demand content that are going to drive people back to watching the session. Because there's nothing they need to do. They just need to remember their password to log back in. And it's the same platform. They actually still can do everything they did as a live event. They still can conduct meeting and roundtable if they want to, for example. But that's kind of how we do. And then we actually have a few post-event webinar also scheduled. We just did one last week, and there's a few one coming up in December as well to continue the conversation. And again, everything is to continue to drive people back to watching the content.
Yeah. And are you looking at selling tickets just for on-demand content, or kind of getting
right now we are still so like our register open right now, and honestly, if you're interested, you can let me know. I can give you a discount code. I cannot give you for free, but
but if I want to access the content but I didn't register, do you have a special price for like post-event registrations?
We and again, this is a case study. We're gonna see whether this is the right move or not. I must say, at the end, we decide not to. We decide to keep the price the same. But we have a lot of the marketing actually. Like we have a lot of the marketing, and the marketing period is quite long. So it's almost like that is actually the new pricing with the discount rate. But we decide to keep it to the same rate. Just the train of thought is because of the content. We think the content is so rich that it's worth for people to still pay the original.
Great shelf life content. Yeah, that's really interesting, because I find more and more when it comes to virtual events, that's happening, right? Like the content output of the event is actually really important, and in some ways is easier to monetize the on-demand side of it than the live side of it, because of the restrictions and that kind of time focus that you need to have. Really, really interesting. We've only got a few minutes.
All right, so I guess the hosts are kick him off by himself. So it's just me now. Well, we are waiting from Miguel to come.
And I'm back.
He's back.
It slipped. My finger slipped. First time it ever happened on
I was
this show.
just about to do a closing remark, but go ahead.
You were going to do a little cooking exercise for us. You were going to start doing a little chopping. Excellent. So a couple of last questions, I think, from me about how you measure the success of the event. And what is it that you're measuring, and what would you do different next time? What did you learn and you're going to do different?
Well, I mean, so for us, I think there's a few things to measure the success. One is what exactly the registration number look like, which on that part, I feel we actually quite success. We hit the target and everything is expecting actually beyond what we're expecting. But I'm also waiting from the post-event survey to come out, because what we would like to know is how people feel about this virtual experience, right? There's a few things that we plug in that we want people, we hope will create the value for people. And now it's really interesting to see how they actually think about it. And then I think at the end is we actually have a question in the survey is, would you like to attend next year? And if so, what do you like to attend? Did you like to attend in person in Toronto again, or you want to do it virtually? Because I think that is another measurement that we are really aiming to look at it to see what that look like.
Yeah.
But like the second question, like what I would do differently, I will say if I hope I have more time. But like every conference, right? It's like every project that you just always hope you have more time. But I would definitely say, I think one thing I would do differently is I will, the content was great, but I think we probably will even make it more focused. I think 18 concurrent session is a little bit too crazy. Maybe cut it down a little bit so people can actually more filter into the session. And I do feel the engagement was not as high as what I am hoping for. So we definitely have some post-event discussion on how can we maybe make it better the next time.
Fascinating. So yeah, really thanks for sharing all these with us. I noticed that the comments have exploded with my little faux pas. So I think that the secret to having engaging events is to make mistakes and prove that you're live, and then lots of comments pop up. So maybe there's a little tip there. But thanks so much, Shawn, for sharing this. We have a few minutes left. I wanted to just share one resource that I'm putting together. So a personal plug here. It's called onlineevents.wiki. And on this little wiki site that I'm building, you'll find a big list of 190 or so platforms that you may want to look at for your events. There are way too many platforms, but if you want to have some ideas of platforms and that they have tags in them, Social 27 is one of the options listed there. It's already listed. So if you want to have a look at that, let me know your feedback. And also, I just love to hear if it's a useful resource for you. So it's here on the banners. I wanted to bring back one comment that Magdalena had that I thought was really interesting, that you can't do the same thing for medical events, when you're talking about the sponsorship and kind of the pay to speak. But I know that there's other options within medical events, which is the corporate symposia and other things of those names where you can have a similar approach. But so I thought those comments also can apply to the medical side. There's a few questions already. As we're wrapping up, will this session be recorded? It is recorded. It is on my profile on LinkedIn Live. So I will post it again within the group, the actual post recorded, and it's also on YouTube. So you can watch it later anytime you want. We wouldn't dream of not recording this, which I think is good. Little comment from Sophie, which I think is good to bring up. If post-event is cheaper, would it prevent people to register for the live days and wait for the on-demand? Interesting question. I'm guessing this was on your mind.
That is actually exactly why we decide not to lower the price, at least officially.
Yep, absolutely. Good stuff. Very, very interesting. I loved, there's a few really nice comments saying from Mark Hanfoot, well done, chaps. Great work, Miguel. That's the virtual thought leadership. Yep. I hope you enjoy those links. Sharon, you can enjoy that earlier. Yes, you can enjoy the recording.
Thanks, Sharon.
Really, really nice comments. Yep. Thanks everybody for watching. We are 90 seconds from time, and I want to end on time because I think in this world of virtual events and meetings, your next calendar item is the thing you have to go do next. So I like to be very respectful of people's time and make sure they have at least a minute to go to the restroom before they have their next meeting.
Totally agree.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure you have other commitments. So without further ado, Shawn, thank you so much for joining me. I hope everybody who's watching enjoyed this conversation. I'll post it on demand, and I have a long link on LinkedIn where I have all the sessions that we've done so far as well. So I'll add that there, and hopefully you find it you enjoy the content and you find it interesting for your virtual events. So upwards and onwards, what would you say, Shawn?
Yeah, no, I mean, the last parting word, just want to say, don't be afraid for everyone. Go execute and go make mistake and share your mistake and share your success, because I think we all learn from each other. And I think this is actually going to be better for all of us.
Excellent. That's exactly what this show is all about, learning from each other. And today we learned from Shawn your experience and your mistakes. But
Yes.
If we don't make mistakes, we don't learn. So mistakes in the most positive sense of the word.
Exactly.
Thanks again, Shawn, and see everybody next time. We have another session coming up next Wednesday, and I'll advertise that in the group shortly with a special guest who is joining us today, Sina from ICA. We'll be talking about the ICA Congress 2020. Can't wait to do that. So Sina, we'll set that up for you and share the link with everybody in the group. See everybody next time. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Have a good day.